What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Zamboni. I am an herbalist and astrologer, and it is time to talk about the astrology of the week ahead. Thank you so much, as always, for being here and making it to the end of the video even. Thank you for hitting my Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. That's super helpful to me. I super appreciate every time somebody sends me $2, $3, $15. That's super helpful to me. It makes this whole situation possible. It really does make this situation possible. Thank you for that. Thank you for going to Spotify, Tidal, Pandora, checking out Can't Help Myself. Thank you for going to Patreon, where you can get an election report to help you time your business decisions in your life and whatever, as well as an Astro Basics course, etc., etc. You can find all the things at ZamboniFunk.com. Let us talk about the astrology of the week ahead. This week, we've got stuff moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. That's kind of the primary thing that we're looking at this week. So as things move from Scorpio, we've been doing Scorpio things. We've had this eclipse stuff going on here. We've been with eclipses and with Scorpio things, there's a lot of darkness involved, right? There's a lot of sort of hiding or shadows or this kind of stuff, right? That's what an eclipse is by its nature, is it sort of like takes the bright light and then turns it into a shadow. Scorpio, by its nature, likes hiding. It likes being reclusive. It likes sort of like hanging out in niches and corners and stuff like that. This week, stuff is going to be moving from Scorpio into Sagittarius. So there's one of the really nice things about that is that planets moving through the end of Scorpio get to make a really nice trine to Jupiter in Pisces. And in fact, even today, there's a really nice moment where we've got the moon in Cancer, we've got Venus in Scorpio, we've got Jupiter in Pisces, and everybody's just playing so nicely together. It's so cooperative. Whenever we see a trine aspect, we can always think about helpful support, right? And helpful support between water signs. This feels like there's something intuitive, something emotionally balancing, something that is, nourishing to the sort of like psychic component of a person, right? And so all of the planets that move from Scorpio and into Sagittarius are going to go through that lovely trine to Jupiter. So we're going to see Mercury do that this week, and Venus, and then the Sun at the very end of the week. So the Sun's not going to move into Sagittarius this week. Next week is that. But Venus and Mercury both do move into Sagittarius. As they do that, then they're going to pass through this trine to Jupiter, and then they move into Sagittarius. And then the main event there is an opposition to Mars. So we've got Mars retrograde in Gemini right now, right? Mars has been retrograde for about 2 weeks now. This is going to continue for another, 7 weeks or something like this until January. So Mars in Gemini so whenever we think about Mars, the action principle, want to go out, want to do the stuff, want to handle business, want to push on things. Mars is aggressive. Mars is irritating. Mars is extremely motivating, especially by way of discomfort or something like this. Mars in an air sign like Gemini might be associated with like over anxious or thinking too much or over analysis or paralysis of analysis. That's another really good one here, right? Because paralysis of analysis is like, there's so many thoughts about it. I don't know what to do and I can't take an action, right? So Mars retrograde is unable to take action on stuff. Mars retrograde is not able to push forward the way that it would typically like to. What's going on this week is Mars retrograde is making an exact square to Neptune in Pisces. So one of the major reasons why Mars can't move forward is because this motherfucker is confused. What is even going on out here? It feels like a quicksand, a quagmire of confusion, right? So not only is and Mercury has been in Scorpio for a little while. Mercury isn't super clear in water signs. Although a trine to Jupiter is lovely and all this, Mercury, who rules Gemini, who is in charge of communication, who is in charge of making information intelligible, this Mercury is now moving into Sagittarius, which is drier than Scorpio is, but it's also opposite to its domicile, right? Gemini and Sagittarius are opposite to each other. So this is Mercury as far away from home as possible. So this is going to be Mercury maybe be a little uncomfortable, maybe like doing the most. Mercury in Sagittarius, one of the first things that I heard, I think Chris Brennan say about Mercury in Sagittarius is that a lot of times you'll hear like these like long tirades. You'll hear people like making these really long arguments, people who have Mercury in Sagittarius, right? There's an inability to be quiet with Mercury in Sagittarius. So we've got this inability to be quiet that is associated with Mercury in Sagittarius, while at the same time, Mercury in Sagittarius is opposite to Mars in Gemini. So there's like extra agitation, anxiety, there's extra like motivation to say stuff. Maybe there's some kind of urgency involved. And indeed, an opposition to Mars definitely feels urgent. Maybe there's some kind of emergency somewhere or something like this. But like, what are you gonna do about it? I don't know what to do. There's like conflicting information. None of it like makes sense properly. It's like we're getting this 2 + 2 = 3. It's like, what? How did this happen? Where's the problem? You know, I myself have been, you know, I've been thinking a lot with like planning and this sort of stuff. Like, how are we gonna deal with or generate a better plan to do stuff? I have found a couple of times that like I completely overlooked something that was super obvious. It was like looking me in the face the whole time, and I just overlooked that shit. And so I feel like there's going to be a bunch of that sort of stuff going on here, where it's like I'm a little confused about it, but there's also this emergency, right? Venus and Mercury both are going to oppose that Mars. Now, they're not going to make the actual opposition this week, but they're going to sort of begin that process. And so there's something here about really sort of jumping into the fire with it, but then still not having any idea what to do. Whenever I think about this kind of stuff, then I always think I return to that Uranus, right? Because we've still got Saturn square Uranus, Saturn in Aquarius square to Uranus in Taurus. And we can remember that folks in Sagittarius are going to make a sextile to Saturn in Aquarius. So that is actually going to be beneficial or complementary or something like this. And actually they're going to hit that sextile a little bit before they make the opposition to Mars. And so there's something here, again, like thinking with infrastructure and all this sort of stuff. I've been thinking a lot with Saturn and infrastructure. Saturn's only going to be in Aquarius in a home sign for Saturn. Saturn's only going to be in this kind of dignity, in this kind of power, able to do the Saturn things strongly and efficiently, effectively, that sort of stuff. Saturn is only going to be in this position for another 5 months or something like this, through March of 2023. Now, this is amazing and liberating in a lot of ways, but because it's been a little bit like Saturn has been super reliable for the past 5 or 6 years, since 2017 when Saturn moved into Capricorn. Then it's been like super strong Saturn this whole time. It's a little bit easy to sort of like get comfortable with that or get used to that or that kind of thing. Whereas in March, then Saturn is going to move into Pisces. It's going to be a completely different feeling as far as Saturn, boundaries, organizations, efficiency, all of this sort of stuff, right? The infrastructure of the thing. And so now is a really good time to look back and make sure that every little piece of the infrastructure is on point. If you're like me, then you're always finding that there's some setting getting in the way of somebody seeing the thing that I'm trying to share with them, or like there's always some little something in the way, and then they have to like request permission or whatever it is, right? Like all that bullshit. There's a bunch of that to do. And what we can see with the Mars square Neptune is that there's a bunch of it to do. You're unlikely to see all of it. There's going to be some confusion around it, right? So it's a really good time to tap into that Saturn, build the infrastructure out, but also remember that Saturn is square to Uranus, right? So there's going to be something experimental that has to go on here. We're going to have to expect to try to do the thing and then to make mistakes, to find that it wasn't I didn't even need to do that shit at all, or whatever it is, right? There's gonna be these twists and turns with it, and those twists and turns this week they take an upturn in volume. The stuff is going to start to get louder. The mistakes are going to get a little bigger, splashier, easier to notice. It looks like a pretty fun week. It's also my birthday. So, you know, that's fun for me. Scorpio. See y'all next week.